I've received an order for a custom pendant from the United States, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to record my process and to show how I bring through the symbols, the markings, and how they go from somewhere out there to here. Now, this person in particular has received my work before, but they feel that they're in a new phase of life and were wondering if I could produce something that would be energetically in line with where they are now. So I'll do my best. Now, in 99% of the cases, because the orders are online, I don't know these people personally. So what I ask them for is their full name and birth date. Then I meditate on this information for a number of minutes and then proceed to do the symbols. And I do that at the computer. Let's begin.
Okay, we're all set up in Illustrator now. And I have a brush that I like to use. It's a flattened disc, and I have it set so that the stroke gets wider as I go with more pressure, and also I have it rotating a little bit. The shape rotates as I press harder. So now we're all set to make markings. So I'm just going to stop here, do my meditation, and then we'll get on to making the marks for this person. Now I am fully concentrated on this person's being, and so we begin. All right, I've got some there. One of the aspects of this when I'm drawing them is a very certain notion that all the lines should touch. I mean, there should be nothing really floating on its own. Just feels like it has to be that way. And you could see that I was backtracking sometimes, and it's just because the feeling of the stroke didn't come out, or it didn't feel right when I did some of the strokes, so I would just undo and then redo. So then I take a look in here, pan around, and see which one or which ones strike me as being more powerful than the others. So in this case, this one hits me, and so does this one. I'm just going to take a few minutes and deliberate and be back. Okay, well, I had the urge to draw one more, and that's this one here. Feels really good to me as well. But I think I'm going to go with this one here. Now sometimes it can be a challenge once I've decided which one to choose, or they've decided which one works for them. Fitting it into, I have three shapes: circle, triangle, and square. And in this case, he wants a circle. So I don't need to worry about sizing right this second. But we just have to place it in there. And this one's pretty good so far. But I am going to just move a couple things around just to enhance the balance. And I'll be back right after I do that. Here's a symbol all set to go and ready to be applied to the metal blank. Now I take off some of the rough edges and extend pieces here and there, or tilt them, just to ensure that the balance is more even inside that circle, and it never harms the integrity of the symbol at all. And I copy and I paste it into my sizing template. These are actual scans of the pieces. I have two sizes for each shape, and the squares are not represented here. This one's going to be on a bigger circle. And wow, that's the right size. That's amazing. Okay, so now we just prepare an output page. And I have to flip the symbols because that's how they come out toner side, proper orientation on the printer that I use. And I usually do 4 up because as I am going to go into the next process, ironing on, I have to iron these on to the metal blanks. And sometimes that can have a screw up or two. So we got 4 up there, and to save that, ready to print out.
I'd mentioned the ironing process. That's a process by which we take the toner that the laser writer leaves and we melt it via a household iron onto the metal piece. But in order to do that, we have to use transparency film. So let's make an output using that. Let's place it in here. And hit print. Come on. Come on, printer. Come on. Come on. There we go. Perfect. And you can see, and that's the toner side. And so we're going to place it on the blank, this side, and then iron it from there. See you there. I almost forgot. We have to go cut a blank first. Out to the shop. Here we are out at the shop. So I have a piece of copper here. I do copper now as well as brass. And I have my drill press set up with a hole saw that just happens to be the right inner diameter of my larger circle pieces. So all that's required is to fire it up and drill away. Ta-da! It's hot, so I have to use the pliers. As you can see, the edges are ragged. So I have to go to my Dremel tool and clean those up. That comes next. I've got the Dremel set up with a diamond encrusted grinding bit, and away we go. Success! Now we just have to scrub off the fingerprints and goop on there with steel wool so that the transfer will be clean. You do both sides just for fun and then pick the best side. This one's got a little ding in it from my Dremel, so it's going to be this side. I've got some packing tape here. So I peel off a strip, sticky side up. Cut that, and I fold it over the end so it doesn't stick to my fingers when I want to let it go. And then I take another strip, sticky side down, and I go halfway down the other piece. And this was all trial and error, just for me to figure out how to do this process. Got the tape. Great. Now I take my blank. Forgive the hairy arms, folks. Take my blank and I stick it on the dividing line between the non-sticky and sticky. So once I'm finished the ironing process, I can just lift it up and get it off of there. And of course I'm using my knuckle because the pad of my finger has oil and would leave fingerprints which would cause a resist. And that's what we're doing here, is making a resist that will resist the acid once it's gone to the etching phase. I'm going to take my printout and cut out one of the imprints and make sure I have, you can see the toner side down. Very carefully center it into the center of the piece. Good. And the sticky side up part will also hold this in place, which is absolutely vital. Then I just have a household iron here, and I have it set to medium-high heat. And just have to be really careful. I start with just holding it on there, pressing with a fair bit of weight. Every iron is different. The one I'm using today is not my usual, so it could be trial and error a little bit. Then, oh, it's already leaving it. That's great. Okay, just a little more heat, a little more pressure, and just peel back. Oh, that's fabulous. You gotta like it. Oh, except for one little. Just one little tail, doesn't want to come off yet, so I'll just keep going on that. Come on! You're gonna go down on there. You being stubborn, are you? There we go. Ha ha! And there we have it. She's on there. I forgot to mention that the iron had no water in it, steamless. Now the toner is good, but I just really want to make sure that there's no little tiny pinprick holes in it, so I just go over the whole thing with a tiny Sharpie. That just takes a second. And I also add a band of black, just a border around the outside, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get her done. Here we go. So it's time to toss it in the acid. In this step, we're going to drop the copper into acid. In this case, it's ferric chloride. And this is an acid that's commonly used in electronics for etching circuit boards and things of that nature. So what I have here, today I'm only doing one piece, so I can use just a small cup. Otherwise, I'd use a tray or something like that. And again, I have some packing tape and I fold it over the edges so it won't stick to me. And I take my piece and I drop it right in the center of the packing tape, sticky side up. Press it down again with my knuckle so as to avoid any contamination. There. Get the cup right there. And just stick the tape halfway down and make sure it's about 1.5 inches off the bottom so that it can be surrounded. So when using acid like this, it's very important to wear safety glasses and gloves. And you have to be smart enough to get the gloves on, which it's questionable in this case. Okay, so here we go. Be very careful with this stuff, because if it spills anywhere that you don't want it, you got a mess. It's gnarly. Now mine's at about room temperature right now, in which case it will be less effective over time. But currently I would project that this is going to take 45 minutes to give me a nice etch. And I keep coming by maybe every 10 minutes and giving it a swirl. Agitation really helps. Okay, we'll see you in 45 minutes. 2 hairs past a freckle. 45 minutes. And here we are. So very carefully. Get the tape out so it doesn't splatter. Excellent. Of course, the gloves are sticking. I'm going to put that down. Peel it off. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I can feel a little edge there, which is exactly what we want. Now I have a bath of baking soda and water, which neutralizes the acid. So here's what it looks like after the first etch. And you can see that the etch itself leaves sort of a random pattern in the background, which I really like. But I wanted a little bit more of something going on just to make the symbol stand out. And so what I came up with is I knew I was going to be doing hopefully a lot of these things. I had a stamp developed. So I made some markings on the computer again, developed it into a pattern, and then had the stamp made. And so I just dipped that into permanent ink and then onto the piece twice in different configurations, and it just leaves this kind of squiggly line. So I'll show you what that looks like when I get it done. Okay, I'm shooting this through my magnifying light so you can better see what's going on with that stamped texture background. And I've masked off the main symbol again so it won't be touched. And all the exposed copper there will take on the second etch, which is about 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be as deep. And what it's going to do is create little ridges that are going to capture the black contrast that I'm going to add shortly. So back to the acid bath. I don't need to show you that, but I will show you the result. And there we have it with the second etch finished. And you can see what that background thing does. That'll get more accentuated when I do the darkening step. I've also put little ridges in the side. That's kind of a detail I like to add to my pieces. So the next step for us is to dome it. Turn it from a flat into a rounded piece by putting it in the dapping block. I'll show you that next. Here we are, ready to dome the piece. Now this is a dapping block. It's a cube piece of steel with half spheres of different sizes rounded out of each side. And the idea is to take the piece, place it in here, and then each of these sockets has a corresponding hammer that fits snugly. I'm using the largest one for this. And away we go. So have to just make sure to put the piece face down. Place that in there. And bang away. And copper is very soft, so this just takes a second. And you have it there. Now I spoke of a blackening procedure to increase the contrast between the symbol itself and the background. And that's actually just this. I'm just going to spray paint the whole piece black. And do not be alarmed. We're going to rub off most of that with steel wool. This is where I live. This is Summerland, British Columbia. So the paint's dry now, and we just have to take the steel wool and carefully scrub off some of that black. Yeah, you can see it coming there. Oh. So I'll show you what it looks like after I finish this. There, as you can see, most of the black has been removed. Just a little bit's left there to set off the actual symbol. And I'll include a scan. It's hard to see, so I'll scan it and then put that picture at the end of the video. My last step before putting lacquer on is to take the thing face down. And I have 600 grit wet dry sandpaper. Place it down and then I swirl it with my finger. All different locations. Just takes off a tiny bit of the top layer, and the swirling motion creates a shimmery effect. This is what I would consider my finished product. I'm going to put about 10 coats of lacquer on there and then ship it off on Monday. It's really hard to take images of these things, considering that some of the visual appeal happens when there's movement, and it certainly does have a different feel when it's in the room with you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed.